This is the Keychron K2 HE, a all-around amazing Hall effect switch keyboard, but not something that's going to be staying on my desk. Let me tell you why. The Keychron K2 HE has great features and specs. We're talking about a Hall effect switch keyboard, obviously. It has 3 connectivity modes: Bluetooth, wireless dongle, it has a cable connection as well, and the polling rate on the wireless as well as the cable is 1000 hertz. It's great, it's perfect for gaming. It's not as high as something like a Wooting, but you're probably not going to need it. It's also one of the only wireless keyboards on the market that has these Hall effect switches. It's a linear switch, so just to be clear here, we have the box art here. This is the Nebula linear switch. It comes only in the Nebula linear switch. That is a one downside. There is no tactical option. There's no heavier or softer switch option with the purchase of this specific keyboard. You can get aftermarket softer and harder linear switches, but that is an additional purchase price. The other variants that they do have, though, have some design differences. So this is the black version. They make a white version of this same special edition, which is around $140 for both of these, with the rosewood accents on the side. These keyboards look very pretty. They're very sturdy. And lastly, there's a $130 version as well that is just a standard edition, all black. The keycaps are a bit flatter on that one as well. I've gotten a chance to use that, and it feels great. It looks great. I actually probably would reconsider if I had to do it all over again. I probably would have bought that keyboard, but I still don't think I would keep this keyboard. Now let's just jump into a sound test here, just because I think that's so important. This is a great sounding keyboard. Overall, it's good in its sound. It's got some thought to it. It has a nice feel. It doesn't leave me lacking. I did mod the spacebar. I put some foam in there. It is a little bit clanky to me. It was too loud for my productivity work. It's fine for gaming, but just productivity was making too much noise. I want to talk now about who this keyboard is for. So at a $140 price tag, it is one of the cheaper options for Hall effect switch keyboards on the market right now, and it is a well-built keyboard. I challenge you to find a more solid, well-built keyboard with a lot of these features for this price range. So I think this would be a great entry point for anyone who wants a Hall effect switch keyboard, anyone who's a more serious competitive gamer and would benefit from the Hall effect rapid trigger technology. This even, I think, will get a lot of attention from people who like sort of luxury keyboards and like the way this keyboard looks on its desk. I could see it being something that would be brought into an office if you're interested in that. I was actually hoping to use it for that versatility as well, but I will touch on that shortly, why that's not going to be happening for me. Now let's talk value comparison. I think one important thing to frame these keyboard purchases in is what else can you get for the dollar. As I mentioned, I think this is one of the best values you can get on the market right now. Newfie is the only other brand I found with an Air and a Halo version, so a low profile and a full-size keyboard, or full-size keycap option. Like this is the full-size as well, so the Halo would be a comparison here. And they offer, for very similar price range, you can get a Hall effect keyboard from them. I am not familiar with that brand. I'd love to test them, but it's not something I'm familiar with. It feels to me the software is on par. Build quality is likely on par as well. I think it might come down to looks, and I think for most people this keyboard is probably going to do well. The Newfie keyboards are pretty, but the Halo in particular is a little more aggressive, and the Air is very pretty. I actually was highly considering that keyboard as well, but not for office setting. It's more of a gamer look to it. Now, if you want pure gaming performance, the Wooting 80HE is widely regarded as the best gaming keyboard on the market, and for $200, it might be worth the investment. I don't know how much of an advancement or how much of a edge you would get by switching to the Wooting keyboard over something like the Keychron HE. It's probably better supported software-wise, and it has higher polling rate, but for the vast majority of you out there, you're not going to benefit from that. From our mainstream brands like Logitech and Razer, there is rapid trigger options. Logitech's is just called Rapid Trigger. It's their Logitech G Pro basically with rapid trigger switches. This is not one. This is an older Logitech G Pro. And Razer makes a Huntsman as well with rapid trigger or Hall effect switches, I should say. But I will note that the Logitech keyboard is $170 and the Razer Huntsman is $220, which to me puts them completely out of contention. Razer's far out and away. Just get a Wooting if you're going to spend that money. Logitech is a little bit more reasonable. I do think Logitech has fantastic software with multi-game profile support, so there is a reason why you would get that keyboard. Let's get into changes I would make with this keyboard. I think the first would be this dongle. As I mentioned before, I think this keyboard is going to get purchased by people in sort of that luxury productivity keyboard market who like the look and feel of this keyboard and want to be able to bring this in office and work at home and travel with this keyboard, given its 75% layout. That is a little bit harder to do when you don't have a dongle slot. So if they added a dongle slot, I think that would sort of make it more complete and make it more functional for people who are going to be traveling with this keyboard. Is it the end of the world? No, but it would be a nice feature to have. I'm also not a huge fan of just the one switch option and one keycap option. I think being a little more flexible would have been nice there. I understand why they don't do it for manufacturing purposes, but I'm just talking about nice to haves or changes I would make. I'd love to be able to switch the specific, switch type here. We have the Nebula switches, but there's Aurora and Dawn. Can we buy a keyboard that just has those pre-installed instead of spending the extra money and having to do the work ourselves? Maybe down the road. Otherwise, I don't want to change much. I think, as I mentioned with the comparison, it sits alone in its value proposition. So it's hard for me to nitpick this keyboard beyond, just some minor things. What I really want to cover is the Hall effect switches. So a lot of people online are talking about how great they are, and they do feel amazing, and I will give them credit. It feels different typing on a Hall effect keyboard. Your hands kind of glide over them, they bounce back a little bit, but the lack of actuation point, the lack of mechanical feedback really impacts you in terms of gaming and typing for me. So my words per minute is about 10% slower on this keyboard. It's outside the range of where I feel like I could mimic my other productivity options. Right now, I'm daily driving an MX Mechanical for my productivity workflow and some light gaming. And then my more competitive gaming, I play StarCraft 2 competitively. I'm using a Logitech G Pro, and that has Roamer G switches in this. That feedback is really important to me. You don't get that same feedback with the Hall effect switch. I did try every actuation point from 0.02 up to 2, and saw varying benefits. One thing I will note is when you're at the low end of the actuation point, your error rate goes way, way, way up. So in terms of typing and productivity, it's unusable until you get that actuation point up above 1.3-ish. And for gaming, you don't get that feedback that you truly click the switch or click the key. So if you're trying to do some swapping between units or building units, you don't have that same confidence you get with the mechanical keyboard. Do I think that gap would close with more usage? But yes, but it's been 2 weeks, and I constantly want to switch back to my other keyboards. They are, I think, individually better than this singular keyboard. I'm probably asking too much from this Keychron. It is a well-built, nice, beautiful keyboard, but it doesn't do any of my asks better than my current setup. Okay, now that we've done the review of the keyboard, we've seen all the different features of the Keychron K2 HE, let's put it on our keyboard tier list for 2015. In terms of gaming, I am going to put this on an A tier. I think for certain people, this will be an S tier keyboard. As I mentioned, for me, the lack of tactile feedback keeps this from being S tier. Its value, its speed, its features, its sturdiness are all fantastic though. For solo productivity, so think about this as you're at home, you're by yourself, you don't have to worry about people being around, you're not traveling, this is your home desktop setup. I'm going to give this a B tier. So its sound is great, the typing speed is adequate but not the best, its software is okay, and it has the features like wireless and cables and the other things you would need, the basic stuff you would need to get it done, all at a great price point. Now for office and travel productivity, I'm going to have to give this probably a C tier. It's not D because the typing sound is not that loud. It's not destructive to people around you. It is fairly portable with its 75% form factor, and it has the wireless and Bluetooth options that make it easy to connect with your work computer, as well as an underrated thing, which is web-based software. So if your company doesn't allow you to install something like the Logitech software on your computer, you can then go and use the web platform here. That's our first keyboard added to the list. We'll see how the rest of 2025 pans out.